Alright, gonna go ahead and trim this lid for this here casserole. So we get the lid, it's been drying for a few hours. Just gonna make sure that it fits in the gallery that we made. So again, this is pretty thick, so it needs to get trimmed down, and I'm gonna use the pot here is the chuck. So let's see how it fits. It's pretty good. There's a little space. I don't know if it's from distorting, moving it around, but it's not too much. You can kind of see as it spins. There's just a little gap. So that can be fixed with just pressing the edge of the gallery over a little bit. Try to keep it even. So that tightened it up a little bit. So now there's not quite as much shift in the gallery space here. So it's real tight, only about a 1/16 of an inch anywhere around. So now I'm going to try to get this cleaned up here in a trim. Starting on this outer edge where it met the bat, where it's going to be the thickest, and start to round it out. So I'm just trying to make it a nice, take off some weight and keep the form. I want this nice dome going across the top to echo the shape of the inside of the lid anyway, since it's a bowl-shaped lid on the inside. I took a gauge on how thick I thought the bowl was when I was holding it before I put it down, so that I could make a educated guess on how much I should trim off. That's always going to vary depending on how thick the clay is on the lid and how much you trim it. Alright, so I'm just going to hit it with a rib to kind of clean it up a little bit more. Smooth out the trimming lines. So this will just get finished with a pulled handle on top and then some lug handles on the side of the bottom part of the casserole. So I'm just going to set that aside for now. Alright, so we're going to work on the lid for this pitcher. Again, we have this drop-in lid. So right now I can already see that it's widened a bit, so it's not going to quite fit in. So you can see that there. So what I'm going to do is start with it upside down. Just going to try to even it up so I feel like it's overhanging evenly around the sides. And then I'm going to start, you can use a little bit of clay if you want to kind of hold this on with a couple little balls of clay. I'm just going to give it a little downward pressure right at the center here to hold it against the pot underneath. And then I'm just going to start trimming the excess off here. Make sure that I keep trimming this at a 90-degree angle. So as I trim in, I also want to come back and trim down. I'm trimming against the flange of the lip that comes down and hangs over. So let's see where we're at now. It's almost fitting inside, so just need to go a little bit more. It's not quite centered, just gotta get it centered again. So by 90 degrees, I mean I'm holding this tool very vertical, as vertical as I can get, coming in against the side where it drops into the pot, and then I'm holding it as horizontal as I can, coming down against the flange to make that 90-degree angle for it to drop inside the pot. So I'm just going to try this again. If I trim too much, it's not going to be a tight fit, and I want it to be fairly tight fit so that it's not just shaking around in there. Alright, so it's just a wee bit more. cleaning off the trim on the bottom that I did. And voila. Fits in. Doesn't really shake side to side too much. So now we can see if there's overhang, like if the lid does, if it came out unevenly, if it was off center and one side came out a little bit more, then you can trim it to the pot. I can also lay it down a little bit so I can support the pot and then just apply some pressure here so that it sits down against the rim of the base pot a little bit better. And then once that's tightened up, I can actually hit this outer edge a little bit with the trimming tool here and start to round that back over. See, these are still a little wet, which is why all the trimmings are sticking. But it can be done. You can always use your sponge to clean up, soften those trimmed edges a little bit, round it out. Alright, so that's that. And then I took the spout that I made. This is a separate cylinder, and I started pulling it out. So I changed it from a round lip so that it comes over to a pouring lip. You can see how it flares out. It gets thinner at the edge so the water can just pour it over the side. I held it at these 2 points here and then kind of shaped it to get the spout just by rubbing it through that area. And what I'm going to do with this is actually take and cut it so that I get just the spout here. I don't want all of this area. So I'm going to start by cutting it just like so. So you can see now I took this area, and this is going to get attached up here, but we're going to lose a lot of these like wings that come up, and I'm also going to cut off this thick bottom part. So I'm going to start with the bottom. Take that off. Just need a rounded piece. I'm going to take these wings off. spout, so this is going to get attached here. Get it back even more. So it'll go on there, something like that. Have to clean it up and attach it. And then cut a hole through the pitcher into there. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of all that, and we'll get a little video of it after it's finished. So here are the finished pieces with handles, lugs, pulls, trimmed. They're flipped over and trimmed. So it's actually one reason it's very important to keep the spout and handle below the rim so it can be flipped over and set on the bottom. Now, it was trimmed before the handle was applied, so, but the spout was on before it was trimmed. And then the lid here was taken off, and this was flipped over and trimmed at the base. And then the lid put back on, and the handles and lugs were applied. So there you go.